Hello, welcome to Sarcastle Cooks, because today I am going to be trying an old recipe called Divinity. And I found this in a old recipe book that's just been in my family for a long time. So it's a classic uh, dessert. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to start off with is 2.5 cups of sugar, which is a lot. It's a lot of sugar. And here's where you realize that your pot is way too small, so let's get an appropriate sized pot, and then really struggle to open the corn syrup bottle. That's really crucial to making sure that it tastes just right. A little bit of frustration is adds a lot of depth of flavor. So once we actually get that open, we're going to add half a cup of corn syrup. This works with both light and dark corn syrup, so just whatever you have on hand should work. And the last ingredient for this little pot here is half a cup of water. Go ahead and put this mixture on the stove top on medium heat, and you want to stir until it's all fully incorporated so you don't see any more sugar crystals. But as soon as you're fully incorporated, you want to stop mixing and you want to let this come to a boil. Now we're going to crack 2 eggs and separate the whites and the yolks, and just keep the whites. Do whatever you want with the yolks. So we're going to need 2 egg whites. Even though there's a lot of good calcium in eggshells, we don't really want that in there, so make sure that there are no eggshells in your egg whites. Now with a hand mixer, we're going to beat this on medium speed, preferably till stiff peaks, but then this is where I realized that, oh yeah, we're going to be pouring molten hot sugar into this, so we want to make sure that we have a glass bowl, not something, make sure that nothing melts, and my spatula broke, so, this is going great. It's my first video, so everything was working perfectly. We will come back to this to beat this to stiff peaks, but let's go check on our sugar real quick. To prevent crystals from forming on the sides of the pot, we want to wet a pastry brush and brush it all along the outer rim to make sure that nothing's forming around there to mess up our mixture. Now you want to take a candy thermometer and we want to get it to around 250, so we can see right now that it's at 230, so we're going to have to let it sit for a little bit longer. Now we can finally return to our egg whites and beat those to stiff peaks. I checked the thermometer one more time and we're at 250, so we're good to go ahead. And while this hand mixer is going, we want to have a thin stream of this really hot sugar, so make sure it doesn't touch you, but really hot sugar flowing into the egg whites, beating continuously so that we can incorporate it all into one. Now once you've put about half of the sugar mixture, you can put it back onto the stove to let it heat up for a little bit longer, depending on how firm you want your final divinity to be. I didn't really let it sit on the stove for that much longer, so mine just ended up being a little bit softer than Divinity usually is. But it still tasted great either way, so I think it's just up to personal preference. Now that we've got all the sugar poured in there, we're going to keep mixing and mixing and mixing. Around halfway through, I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Note that this is really hard on your hand mixer, so if you're gonna feel some pushback on your hand mixer. Mine actually gave out once, but I definitely didn't mix it for as long as I was supposed to, so mine ended up being a little bit thinner because I just didn't want to ruin my hand mixer. So if you've got a KitchenAid stand mixer, that would work a lot better. Now I'm adding in my chopped pecans. You can add any sort of nuts or fruits that you want, but I'm adding chopped pecans and some walnuts and just mixing that all together. If I ever make Divinity again, I am totally going to add some dried cranberries because I think that would be awesome in this. I love a versatile recipe where you can just put whatever to suit your personal preferences. Okay, now we can finally start scooping this onto a lined baking tray. So you're going to take about a tablespoon, just like a spoonful of mixture at a time, and dropping that onto the tray. I definitely made these first ones like way too big, and then I ran out of room, so I grabbed a much bigger tray and just started dropping smaller ones, little bite-sized ones. I personally like them smaller. Oh yeah, and make sure you lick the bowl because you deserve it. And now we're gonna add, just for decoration, you don't have to do this, but I really liked it. Adding some of the nuts that you chose, add some of it on top. It makes it look really nice and kind of, fancy. Make sure that none of them are touching each other because it won't look as clean when you take it off the pan. So when you've got all your nuts on top, you're gonna let that sit for about 8 hours. I let it sit overnight. It actually ended up being about 11 hours. And there you have it. That's Divinity. You can play around with the different flavorings. You can add different nuts, some chocolate, some different fruits. Totally cool. Thank you so much for watching. This was my first video. I hope to do a lot of other experimenting with recipe videos. So subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.